For the second part of this week's course content, we're going to be talking about choosing and implementing curriculum for early childhood education programs. Some of the things that we'll be talking about in the following slides are that your curriculum is based on your philosophy and the vision that you have. So last week we talked about our mission statement, and we thought a bit about the philosophy that we have for how children learn, and the vision that we have for our program as a leader. And both of these ideas are also going to play into our curriculum. Some of you will have choice over your curriculum, and some of you won't. The bigger thing is your implementation. So even if creative curriculum, let's say, has been bought for you by the program director or the corporate preschool, the implementation on a daily, weekly, and yearly basis is how that curriculum is going to come to life and meet the needs of the children. Also, a director is going to plan for the curriculum to be implemented throughout the year, and then you're also going to assess it. You're going to assess how your teachers use it, how developmentally appropriate it will be, and how successful it is. And then your policies, procedures, and your budget support this planning and this implementing of the program. So the program planning that we talked about in the last slide, in the last PowerPoint, also supports how you implement your curriculum. I wanted to touch real fast in this slide and the next one on the idea of pedagogy. And really kind of the things that we're looking at is the curriculum. So what is being taught? How do children learn? And then specifically for us, the methodology and the way that the teaching is done. And for us as a director, after we choose and implement the curriculum center-wide, we need to go back into the classrooms and we need to look at the methodology. How do the teachers implement the curriculum, or basically how does a teacher teach? So we need to assess a teacher's grasp of the curriculum and then the ability to teach it. If the curriculum is too difficult, if it's too difficult to implement, or it's not something that a teacher's ready to absorb, then their ability to teach it is going to be compromised. We'll talk more about staff supervision, team building, but this really comes down to our hiring. If you run a Montessori or a creative curriculum or a project-based approach, you want to hire a staff member who's going to have the ability to implement that curriculum. And so asking questions about your curriculum is going to be really important, because if they don't buy into the idea of project approach, then the curriculum on a daily basis is not going to happen. So that's just a little bit about pedagogy, and on the next slide there'll be a video from an Irish podcast that's going to go over some of the strength-based ideas of pedagogy. It might be a little bit difficult to hear, so you might need to open it in YouTube and listen to it with the closed captioning. So we'll be talking about roles and responsibilities for you as a director, administrator, supervisor of an ECE program. So the first thing is just assessing the teacher's ability to understand and then to teach the curriculum on a daily basis, weekly basis, monthly, and then yearly basis, because it's got to be happening on all of those fronts for it to be consistent for the children. And then the second thing is communicating that curriculum to other adults. So we've communicated to our staff, they're hopefully implementing it to a quality level, but we also need to be able to tell parents and families about it. Either parents that are already in the program, how we are teaching your children, when we are assessing them, and then when we're communicating that assessment to you. So a conference, on a weekly basis, daily notes, how is that curriculum being done and how is it communicated to the parents? And then also for parents that might be joining your program. If they're looking for academic and you're Waldorf, that is probably a vision that cannot be reconciled. They have an idea of how they want their children to learn, and you have your own vision for how children learn, and those are probably not compatible. And then also your assessors. So if you're doing accreditation, NIAC, if you're doing quality preschool programs, people who come in and assess you for ECHRs, those type of things, you need to be able to communicate your curriculum that they can see, that's posted on your walls, and then how you communicate it to them verbally. and then also other funding bodies. So QPI again, and then the board of directors. So if you have a board of directors, you might go before them, and you're going to tell them how the program is going, how the curriculum is being implemented. And then for some federal, state, and county funding programs as well, you could have a coach or a mentor who also comes into the classroom to make sure that the curriculum is quality, and they might offer suggestions as well. Another one of your roles and responsibilities is kind of your institutional support, your time, your space, your policies, procedures. And we're going to talk about this hopefully in our discussion board, and I would love to hear from you guys, but kind of the lesson plan is done weekly and daily, and that's to support the larger goals of the quality and quality curriculum. And you provide the support. So you give them time and space, and then money, so that they can implement that curriculum. So then piggybacking off of that past slide was your roles and responsibilities as a director, and then how are you going to implement that curriculum within the classroom? So how are you going to give teachers time to lesson plan? I consider myself a facilitator of this course. I don't have all the answers. Having time and space to lesson plan weekly, depending on your program, can be really difficult. If lunch breaks need to happen at a certain time, maybe teachers work splits, maybe they're not all together, maybe they work completely different schedules and don't have time together. So I'd really like to hear from you guys if you have a really innovative way that you lesson plan, or you provide time and space for your teachers to get this really important part of our program done. Please share it. And then also, where do you see your leadership coming into play? Is curriculum design coming from the top, and it's your way, and then they just implement it, or is it more collaborative? You guys are working together, you're looking at where the children are, and then planning accordingly. There's really no right or wrong, and this has to do a lot with those leadership styles that we talked about on the first week. Are you affiliative? Are you coaching? Are you pace setting? So your ideas for yourself as a leader and your ideas for vision are going to play into how you work with staff in order to implement curriculum. And then the third one is that really practical money. How are supplies and materials to support learning going to be bought or sourced? If teachers need construction paper, or they need more information on space, something like that. Your program planning and your budget planning go hand in hand to support the daily life of the program. And that doesn't mean you need to have copious amounts of money, but there need to be some monies set aside throughout the year in order to support the supplies and materials that your teachers are going to need to implement curriculum. So one of the roles and responsibilities of a director that we talked about 2 slides before was communicating your curriculum to families, and then also in marketing. So in our parents manual, you're going to have a short description of the curriculum, and this is going to help guide parents and prospective employees in choosing a program that best aligns with their ideas of how children learn. So when we talked about pedagogy, we talked about hiring teachers that buy into your idea of how children learn, and then talking about parents who have ideas for what they want their child to do, and sometimes those are not compatible with the program that you run. So what your weekly assignment in Canvas is going to be is you're going to clearly and concisely communicate how you believe children learn, what type of curriculum is used in your program, and then how children's learning is going to be evaluated. And I'm looking for about a paragraph, because this is going to go in a parent manual, it's going to go in your marketing material like your Facebook page or a brochure, and it's just going to give parents, prospective parents, and parents already in your program an idea of what this program thinks about children. So for example, what I believe, and what I would probably write is something like, I believe that children learn through play and active exploration in their environment. At this school, we use a project-based approach that takes the children's interests and devise lesson plans around their areas of curiosity. We teach in all areas of development through their own natural curiosity and wonder. Children's learning and development is assessed through objective observation and then portfolios of their learning. So that's an example of what my description of curriculum would be, and something that I might write in my weekly assignment on Canvas. So think a little bit about what you think about children and how they learn, and then what type of curriculum you would use in your program, or you're already using in your program if you're already running your own FCC or you're already running a preschool. And then also how their learning should be evaluated. And once again, this is going to be your weekly assignment, and then save it please, because this is going to be part of the parent manual that we'll write later in the class, and then your parent manual will also become part of your director's file. So once you update this and you put it in Canvas, save it in a file or folder so that you can access it later. So in conclusion, one of the readings that we're doing this week is from a very classic textbook by Barbara Taylor, and it's called A Child Goes Forth. And a child goes forth from a young age, and individuals in their environment can be positive, negative, or non-influential. And as an administrator, we want to strive for providing a positive environment and being influential in that early learning that all children engage in. And so our curriculum choices and our implementation and then the assessment of that curriculum really contributes to a positive environment. So all the choices that we're making revolving around our program planning and our curriculum choices need to be headed towards being influential in a child's early learning. So to work on for this week, I'd like you guys to read Chapter 4 of the textbook, which is Administering Program Plans. Then read an excerpt from A Child Goes Forth, which I just quoted, and the PDF is called A Child Goes Forth Curriculum, and that is going to be about choosing curriculum and talking a bit about developmentally appropriate programs. Then I want you to write a curriculum description as your weekly assignment, and I talked about that 2 slides back, and I shared what I believe. But I want you guys to write a paragraph that describes your curriculum and then save it for your director's file, and then it's also going to be part of the introduction of your parent manual that we'll do in a couple weeks. Then finally, if you guys could add your ideas about allowing time and space for lesson planning by staff. This is an issue I have had across the board in many different programs, so please share. You could also, if you have a great lesson plan that you use, or a program planning form that you use, or lesson plan webbing, project webbing, anything like that, please upload it or attach it if you're willing to share, so that we can learn from you. And then our field trip observation number 1 is due next week on September 17th. So if you haven't gotten started on that, start thinking about it now. Thanks so much. Have a great week.